Exercise.
Hey, hey, hey.
What is up, man? How we
Hello
doing?
there. Oh, I am good. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm feeling good. I'm ready to. This episode should be a more chill, more relaxed one. We're talking about food tracking apps today for the Hexkins, kind of going over the ins and outs, what's important, things to be aware of, and then some other stuff today. So yeah, man. But otherwise, my week was pretty chill. How about yours?
Yeah, same again. Another week, episode 7. Pretty surprising.
Are we on 7 already?
This is episode 7.
Wow. Yeah, because it's only
Um,
the thumbnail, not the
hmm
title.
Um, another week zip by for me. It was good. Some crazy things happening today. If you are in the Hex world, which I imagine a lot of you are,
Yep.
some big OA moves. I think this
Yep.
was pretty well predicted
Yeah.
to happen.
I
So,
think a lot of people saw that one coming. It was just a matter of when, right the very last minute every time.
hmm not sure how many more sacrifices we'll see, but I
Do
think
we
I
know,
think it's
Richard?
I think it's moving along pretty well. I think it has been like pretty testing the amount of time that it's been, which I think is fair. But I think things are moving. So
Yeah,
I'm
they're
I'm
definitely
standing
moving,
by.
man. I'm just chilling,
You
man.
know?
I'm just sitting here with popcorn staked, chilling to see what happens, man.
Yeah,
I'm just honestly in accumulating too, man. This is the
yeah,
best price action ever. But yeah, don't want to talk too much about Hex as much as we could, honestly, just go crazy. They want us here to talk about nutrition and mindset and exercise, all that good
yes,
stuff. So
sir. Mindset Mondays.
how's everybody doing in the chat? How's everybody doing?
Yeah,
Anybody get a chance to watch our previous episodes? Any
yeah,
questions from last week that we didn't answer? Anything at all? How are you guys doing?
yeah. If you are here from previous, hit us up with any questions, and we'll make sure to check back in with those kind of as we move through what we are going to talk about for the day. But get in there. And yeah, the episodes are set up in a way to hopefully provide you with start to finish understanding of what we're referencing. So if there's maybe some terms you don't know that are mentioned, hit us in the
Yeah,
chat and then we'll reference whichever episode that was in, and it might be helpful to go watch some of those.
perfect. That works for me. You want to get into tracking apps? Just kind of do like a light discussion about those to start.
Yeah, just talk about them like as a whole.
Yeah,
I guess to start off, I think they're an extremely useful tool, especially if you're able to be consistent with them. Um, I think obviously they have the potential for maybe some to overdo it, but if you're using it just as a tool and you're able to kind of remove some of those stigmatisms that are associated with it, I think it's one of the best tools that you can have. Everything else is mainly an estimation. Here is where we're getting like some actual, like pretty consistent, probably like reliably accurate like inputs or data that you can actually use to make some hard decisions with. So I think on the whole, like I am massively for them. Like if you think um, in like if there's a negative connotation in your mindset with trackers when it comes to food or macros, I would highly, or I would challenge that idea that they're bad or that they're a negative thing. I think they're awesome. There might just be a few barriers to like maybe people wanting to use them or really actually using them enough that they become useful, I guess. But on the whole, I think I'm two thumbs up in terms of them being used and available.
yeah. I mean, dude, let's just get right to the facts on tracking your nutrition. I know it's not sexy, guys, but this is like a bank account, right? This is an acceptance of responsibility. And people forget when we first got those bank accounts, at least with me, at least, I was broke. And I got it. I think I was like maybe 16 or 18. I can't remember what the age is where you can get one, but I had $0 in my account. It sucked. I don't know about you guys. I didn't really have a real job. I was working like under the table at my neighbor's house for like out in his backyard. But the point is yeah, guys, tracking calories, tracking macros, whatever methodology you kind of go by, or whatever preference, really, I should say, these are important to get your feet wet with, because when you are trying to make improvements, being accurate is of the utmost importance, because we don't want to do this for a super long period of time, right? We've talked about a lot of these things on our previous episodes, but try to view a tracking app as a short-term tool to get better at doing this on your own behind the scenes without anybody knowing you're doing it. Because when you get really good at doing this, you kind of get used to the price points of all the food. It's kind of like when you go to the Target and you go in grocery shopping, you don't assume the Cheerios box to be $50. You already know it's probably going to be about $3, right? You can do that in your head. You don't need a calculator and algorithms to decide your budgeting for just going grocery shopping typically. Same thing with food, right? Whether or not it's good for you or not, the point is it all has price points attached to it. And we're talking strictly energy balance. So these apps, whether free or paid or otherwise, we'll talk about a few of the options that we recommend. They're just a tool to help us better understand what these price points are and how it impacts your weight loss, weight gain, or just maintenance, depending on what your goals are and what you're trying to do. So we're going to touch on a few of them. Some of these have been around for a while. Some of these are newer players, but a lot of them are kind of rinse repeating the same thing. And it's a big preference thing, in my opinion, at least. Yeah, feel free to ask questions and put in their experiences you've had in the past with tracking, all that good stuff, because a lot of good conversation and discourse can come from tracking calories, because it is such a, how do I word this exercise, such a delicate topic in culture.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're tracking calories? You must be trying to lose weight. That's like me being like, oh, you're tracking your finances? And you're like, yeah, I always track them. Well, then why is the same opinion not there for food? It's like, what do you care more about? How much money you have in the bank or you not being in a hospital? I don't know. Usually the hospital. But the point is it's a delicate topic in culture. And we're not going to touch on that today because that's a whole deeply rooted thing unless people ask specific questions on it. But just know this is why great discourse can come from talking about the black and white nature of a tracking app. That's all it is, right? It's just a big database with a graphical user interface. And you're able to type stuff in, scan stuff in, all sorts of stuff. And it just basically gives you numbers, essentially. That's it. Nothing really too crazy there, guys. So that being said, I have two apps I would like to go over. They have free versions and they have paid versions. To be transparent, none of us are sponsored by any of these. And I use the free version of MyFitnessPal. I have used the free version for 7.5 years. I probably shouldn't keep telling people to use the free version. They're just going to go under, because they don't get any money, but they do with ads and all that good stuff. The point is we're just doing this because we're just showing you options. I'm just going to give you my recommendation based on my specific opinion. And I'm sure the same goes for exercise. So, yeah, I don't know if you want me to start on mine, man, if you want to go with yours first. So I know you.
I got one and I think you got two, right? So maybe we'll sandwich me in the middle. How's that?
That works. That works, man. Okay, guys, let's start with, I'll just start with the one I like the most. It's the most OG app, in my opinion, because I've been tracking for 7.5 years in a row. And yes, I have the proof of that. I have a little streak that MyFitnessPal gives you. A lot of tracking apps have like a little streak that show you how long you've tracked your food in a row for. And yes, mine straight up is at 7.5 years, which I know you may feel is kind of sad, but it is also my profession. So it is important that I show people that there's nothing really special about what I do. It's just a lot of consistency. I digress though. So yeah, if you want to pull up my tab here, cool.
Yeah,
so
MyFitnessPal, OG for sure.
Yeah, this is the OG, man. Like when I started tracking 7.5 years ago, and I went into, I don't know if any of you guys are from the Northeast. So we have something called Wegmans up there. It's a big grocery store chain. And I'm from upstate New York, if there's anybody near there. The point is when I was in there tracking for the first time, people thought I was stealing trade secrets off of the back of food labels, like straight up. Cause I'd be like spinning them around, looking at them and shit, and just being like, looking, just getting familiarized with the nutrition label and what this stuff actually means that has been there for many years. And I just never cared to look at it, so it was super weird back then. And it's still weird now. It really, the culture hasn't moved that far forward, but MyFitnessPal has been here for a hot minute. I believe they're sponsored or owned by Under Armour. Point being is they've been around forever. Their uptime is insanely good. I think they've been down maybe twice in 7.5 years that I've been with them. And yes, I've kept my streak even during that time. I'd already pre-logged for those days. But the point is they're really good. They're reliable. They're stable. They have an incredibly good database. A big portion of why you want to choose an app for tracking food is the database. A lot of them are pretty good, but some of them have database entries. Like if you just type in like Starbucks, and for some reason, this app doesn't have like a confirmed list of Starbucks drinks pulled from the Starbucks nutrition calculator. It could be just someone's entry. Like Joe Schmo, myself, could have just been like, hey, grande caramel macchiato is 20 calories. And you're like, oh, great, here it is. Grande caramel macchiato. I'm going to log it as 20 calories. But in reality, it's 400 calories. So just because you log doesn't mean it's correct, right? So for the most part, it's not a huge deal. And I'll get into the app I'm going to get into after MyFitnessPal, I think is less accurate because of that. But MyFitnessPal in my opinion, is the best of the best when it comes to accuracy of the database, which I think is a big deal because there's just a lot of options, especially eating out, chain restaurants, on the go, fast food, stuff like that people just want to know that they can do quickly. It's less about, in my opinion, like recipes, because a lot of people aren't like home cooking anymore like they used to. So anywho, so this is just the homepage where you can go and yes, you can do it for free. But you can track food. And then there's a few things actually I wanted to show you guys. Where is this image? Okay. So in MyFitnessPal, it's a blue and white app. These are just a few of the screens that show you guys how intuitive they can be, and really cool. So a lot of people are afraid with tracking because they think they have to enter in all this shit like one by one and make it really obnoxiously difficult and takes a lot of time. Tracking should take no more than like 2 minutes. And they have a really cool tool called a barcode scanner. A lot of these apps do have it now. This used to be a MyFitnessPal only thing, but you can basically just scan a barcode and like 99% of the time, it's going to be dead on and accurate, which is really cool. And what that does is it imports all the data, the calories, the macronutrients, right? Protein, carbs, fats, fiber, etc., and all the micronutrients if listed along with it. So you just scan it, it populates it in, you pick the serving size, like 1 hot dog, 20 hot dogs, whatever, and enter, and you're good. And the coolest thing with MyFitnessPal is that once you do enter it, like let's say you have a couple hot dogs for lunch for Super Bowl Sunday that we just had, whatever, few weeks ago, whatever it was. Yeah. And you have them again because there's leftovers. Well, under your lunch category, all of your previously used items, if there are patterns there, are going to be there for you, which is really sick. So all of my foods that, like as a guy, typically a lot of guys eat kind of the same thing for certain meals, like breakfast and stuff, typically. All of your go-to meals and items are going to be in there. So you don't have to waste time scanning shit every day. It's just there. You just go, boop, boop, boop. Oh, okay, done. So I max will log maybe 1 to 2 new things max a day. I think I spend less than 3 minutes a day actually logging. Yeah, you should literally spend less time than brushing your teeth on this, honestly, when you get good at it. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about, I think the relationship between tracking and what someone should ideally get to after we go through the apps. But so scanning a barcode is really, really cool, very intuitive, easy to use. And you can see the middle picture here, it's got a calorie count and the macronutrients associated with it. So whether or not you're someone who's tracking just calories or, wanting to pursue a little bit deeper into the rabbit hole with macronutrients and really trying to optimize things, it's going to have everything you want. And in my opinion, a clean interface that's pretty easy to navigate. And it's got a bunch of like other connections that really make it streamlined. So if you have a Fitbit, it'll connect through that. It'll connect through a lot of the watch gadgets that are out there. Pretty easy. And this is an example, guys, of what it looks like when food gets logged into the app. So for example, this person ate cheese and onion crisps. Ew. Spreadable dairy lee, whatever that is. Americano. Looks like some maybe cheese. I don't know. Apple with skin. Man, I would not pick any of this stuff, but here we go. Banana and powdered peanut butter from PB2. Great. Maybe not my first choices, that's for sure. But you can see that you can set goals if you want. Please don't do 1,200 calories. Oh my God. And then it'll show you your food as you're logging and where it's going. Essentially, it's very similar to the budgeting in that way, which I'll say this, guys, this isn't the only tool needed for success. We talk about mindset and charting and all that stuff too, to help with weight loss and really making improvements. This is just one piece of the pie, if you will, maybe like 10% of the puzzle. A lot of people that know how to do this perfectly and still fail. Kind of like finance and budgeting. But anywho, this is what the interface looks like. It's pretty smooth. It's pretty simple. A lot of swiping, pretty intuitive, easy stuff there. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about is this here. So this is a new feature that came about a year and a half ago from MyFitnessPal. This is for premium only. I think it's like, I think $25 a year, something like that. They're all pretty similar with price points. But apparently, because I didn't even know this for a hot minute because I had the free version. I've always used the free version. You can scan a picture of something and it'll import what it thinks it is. Straight up. That's amazing. Because if you're like totally unaware what the calorie count is of something, and you want to kind of be like discreet that you actually care about your health at like a family party, get together, whatever. For example, this person is realizing that this small bowl of almonds is 900 calories, which yes, it is 900 calories. It's a shit ton of calories. They're very healthy for you, but there's a lot of energy within that small group of almonds. Refer back to our episode where exercise has a great summary of the balance of energy and how that works from a physiology perspective. But anywho, the point is this is a really cool feature, guys. If you can't afford to have a personalized coach or someone that can come in and help you out with understanding these things, this can be a really helpful addition because a lot of times people are unaware of how much energy, how pricey these foods are. when you're eating them. You just don't realize the actual calories your body sees. You see it and you think there can't be this bad. It's that bad. It's like you're buying a t-shirt, you think it's $30 and it's $400. Except you
Mm-hmm.
have to buy it and then you figure it out like 10 years down the road that it's $400.
Yeah.
But anywho, yeah, this is a really cool feature. This is the only thing I would say I would recommend premium for. Otherwise, if you don't think this is something that's going to be super useful or you're already aware of a lot of the higher ticket item foods, I would just stick with free. The other app I want to, oh no, actually, I wanted to pause on this one. You're up next. You do your next one. That's
Sure. Yeah,
MyFitnessPal, guys.
I'll sandwich in here. Yeah, that AI camera thing, I hadn't heard about that until Ryan, you just mentioned that today. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff.
Pretty cool idea. You do like lots of people have their phone out and ready, like when prepared or takeout or dine-in meals are brought. So like there's
Yeah.
potential for like a decent amount of transition there. Yeah, cool idea. Very cool. And crazy. Yeah, I'd like to see some of the metrics like you were mentioning to see how good it is. I'm sure it's decent.
Yeah, I have one client that's showing me it right now and how it works. It seems like it's
Mm.
not scary accurate, but like enough accurate to like, wow, that's pretty impressive. You know, it's not
Yeah.
like, oh, this is super freaking gimmicky. This is going to work like 20% of the time, and you're just not going to bother with it. It seems
Damn.
like it's pretty damn helpful.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. So yours, yeah, MyFitnessPal. I remember, so back in the day, when I first got into, like, I would call it fitness YouTube, and I started doing like 2-a-day workouts and just trying to get abs. That was when I first started tracking. I used MyFitnessPal, and that would have been probably close to when it was released, like
Yeah.
2010 maybe
For
ish.
Chronometer.
No, that was for MyFitnessPal. I didn't find Chronometer till I kind of came back to the tracking game, and looked into MyFitnessPal again, and I thought it was okay back when I used it. I remember like they had a barcode and shit scanner when I used it. I remember like running into some issues, and then I think a few people, like, again, kind of, I don't know if I'm gonna say fitness YouTube, but like the fitness world, probably like more of like the nerdy end side. Like some of them have created their own apps at this point. Like Lane's got his own app. This other guy in the research world that I follow, Greg Knuckles and
Yeah.
Trexler, they've got their own app. So I can't remember like who exactly like endorsed it, and like I was sold on like, holy smokes, this one looks sick, but it came from like that community.
Gotcha.
But a lot of similarities, a ton. So like I don't think there's any real difference between most of these at the base level. Like if you can find a free one that you like, I would like almost always recommend sticking with the free one. And you can probably find one that works really, really well for you, free. There might just be some cool potential benefits like that AI camera. That was something I never even heard of. So I'm not sure when we get over to the right page here. I'll look at what the plans entail, but I found Chronometer had everything you needed, just like its own twist. Like they're just kind of targeting MyFitnessPal as a competitor in the space. So when you land in there, I use the web a lot too as well. It syncs up with your phone, so everything you do here shows up on your phone as well. And I always found working on a computer to be um, pretty useful. And I usually would just like put in my shit at the end of the day. Lots of times I wouldn't track it right on the spot. I just like put it in at the very end. So on the computer, it's really, really nice to add in meals or stuff. Just like MyFitnessPal, there's a place where you could go to the foods tab and add in a meal, either custom, or I found it was really, really easy to go to a restaurant's webpage and zip right back to add in a custom food.
Huh.
But I created a little sample of a day here, and you see it
Nice.
just works similar to like MyFitnessPal. Your budget, your calorie budget ticks down as you enter in food. So my allotted calories are 2617. As you enter in foods, that goes down. And right alongside the calories, which I think might be a little bit different than MyFitnessPal, is you get a direct breakdown right next to it of the fats, the carbs, and the protein. If you care a lot about what macros are going in on that day or at that time. And this would look very similar, I think, to the phone readout here. And then another area I found that they might be a little bit above MyFitnessPal is in terms of like the micros. Again, one of the things is I haven't used MyFitnessPal since, like probably 2015. So I imagine they have
Dang, it's been a hot
basically
minute.
they would have all this shit if I went and used them. I'd imagine. I just remember when I first hopped onto these guys, they were doing some good things, or at least I liked it. And then these, of course, your macros, you can set your own targets based on your own goals. So over in settings, basically the size, there's a few different equations. We kind of mentioned how it's tough to actually measure BMR, or
Yeah.
more accurately estimate BMR. So if you have the data of the food in over weeks, it's much more useful than these actual estimations. But that's where they start from. They start from here, then they move closer and closer. And then here's where I would set my different rates, depending on what you're going for. So I think, yeah, it basically offers everything that MyFitnessPal does. Let's go take a look at what the actual plan does. So I am on basic. Oh, it's like if you have clients, I see. You could kind of go in and look at they give you some metrics or something if you have clients sign up through Chronometer.
Interesting.
Recipe importer. So I feel like I basically already do that. Custom stuff, nutrition scores. I don't see that AI thing or that camera thing. Okay, so yeah, this side is for anybody who's coaching or training, I guess. So yeah, I don't see the need to go up to this one. Just like I guess there's
Yeah.
probably not a need to go up to the next one in MyFitnessPal, but probably
Dude,
some
these
some
apps
cool
have so much
info.
fluff in them. It's not even funny.
Yeah, what's one thing that I do spend money on that like you don't actually need to? It just provides it can provide an incentive. Maybe like something like Audible or shoot, I can't think of an example right now, but where I'm willing to spend like $10 to make sure I go back and do it. That's just me trying to.
Are you on like an old legacy service from them?
I don't think so. I think it's just normal.
I mean, guys, that's a great example of how everybody's so different. Like, I would never, like, I used to use MyFitnessPal on their website, like, way back in the day, like maybe 3, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And once again, there's no right or wrong answer to this. You know, there's different methodologies and strategies I think could be potentially more accurate. But if you're a seasoned person and you're not making mistakes, doing it at the end of the day and through the web browser may be a way better fit for you versus an app on your phone. I have always used the phone one, and I used to be on the browser back in the day, but have since switched. So I honestly can't even speak to what MyFitnessPal uses on the browser. But that's a good point. Like, don't feel afraid to just do it on the browser only if that's a better connection to it for you versus a phone app.
Yeah, I guess that is probably different than most that I do it here, but that's funny. I've never really thought about that.
I haven't even thought about that in a hot minute until you're like, yeah, I come here at the end of the day and I log it through the browser. I'm like, oh man, when's the last time I did it like that? And nothing against it either. You know, like I really should log back in again in case like the mobile app goes down. That's why I typically pre-log things in the future in case the mobile app goes down, but their uptime's so good on MyFitnessPal.
What did we just get? We just got a little question here. I could take down my stream, maybe look at chat for a bit. Should I drink my whey isolate on my recovery days or stick to workout days? I don't really have a yes/no answer for you here, Stylus. I'm going to say it depends. You can mix it in on either day to try to meet your whatever protein number you're trying to get for the day. Lots of people like to have it around their workout time, and typically after as a post-workout meal. But if you have it around training, it's just as good. So I think I tried to go after like a whole bunch of different like myths in one answer, but it doesn't really matter if you drink it on a recovery day or a
It's a
workout
good question though. I feel like
Yeah.
we're gonna get a lot of these questions.
So you can get your protein through numerous
Yeah,
sources.
I
Lots
mean,
of people.
everything he hit, he said I'm gonna reciprocate that. I
Mhm.
mean, let me put it this way. Stylus 19. Sorry, I didn't look at the name. Pay more attention to your daily protein intake versus whether or not it's whey. That's probably going to be your biggest area of improvement. If you already know for sure that you're getting probably, hopefully, around 0.7 grams per pound of body weight or a little bit more than that, then sure, maybe you prioritize whey on days that you work out, but we're talking about min-maxing things, that could just go on and on. So from exercises point, I will also second that. Yeah, as long as it's going towards that total daily intake of protein, I don't think either of us are going to have issues with it being every day of the week or just once a week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I find that most people find it a bit difficult to hit higher protein targets. If you're on a 0.7 per gram or a 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight, I find a lot of people find it pretty difficult. So oftentimes a whey or whatever type of protein supplement is necessary. But again, Silas, it doesn't have to be whey isolate, right? There's lots of high quality protein that's not necessarily in a shake. If you like incorporating that, do it. Just yeah, if you're tracking, I'm guessing you're tracking if you're taking whey protein. So
May not be.
That's true.
I mean, I was definitely a part of that when I was just like, give me all the protein and just take a bunch of protein shakes and hope it works out. Not saying that's what you're doing, Silas. You could be crushing the game. I have no idea. But I can at least admit that I've definitely been there before for sure. So if you haven't yet tracked, man, I can tell you what, 80, 90% of the guys I see that come to me on average are getting about probably 30 to 40 grams of protein per day on average, right? You may have days that are higher, but then when you equate out the whole week, it's like, guys, you're cutting your gains in half. Yeah. And that's, once again, whether or not you're trying to lose weight or gain weight, regardless of that, your optimizing of this whole process is like already cut down by like 40, 50% if your average protein intake is, and that could be 40, 50 grams on average with whey protein. Don't care if it's whey or whatever.
Yeah.
So definitely probably the most important thing to stick to, and then where the protein intake is coming from. If I had to give it an order of operations.
Yeah. Amount for sure. I agree, being the top of the pyramid there. Limon, I can't remember if this guy was if they're referencing this guy as like always trolling, but so I don't know if he's trolling this year. You just need to eat rice, chicken, and an apple every day to get shredded. Oh, and run 2 times a day. So I feel like this is a bit of a troll, but
it's tough to tell these days. That it's tough to tell. If you guys are actually trolling on purpose, make it more obvious so we don't answer it all seriously.
Yeah.
Because some people might actually take this seriously. Straight up. I know it's easy to maybe think that they wouldn't, but I've been in the industry for 7 years and there's a lot of nonsense out there. But yeah, he's definitely trolling. I saw his most recent comment. I can talk about Lose It real quick if you want.
Sure.
Let's through all the comments.
Let's hurry up here. Oh, the last thing I was going to show was Melv Tony. I was going to show him my it's not really clear up there, but I always have this Hex tracker up here. This ticker.
Nice.
Basically, it's just the Hex Daily Stats website, but the ticker is like constantly getting refreshed in your bar up here. So I always have it up there.
That's pimp.
And the other one that's always up there that refreshes is the gas tracker. Where the heck's that? If you guys don't use this tool, I always just have it again up here right next to my Hex price. It's just a ticker right here, gas price right here. So if it's sitting at 16 cents right now, if I ever see any like super nice gas prices, shoo. So yeah, it's Melv Tony, our live ticker in the chat. Okay, we'll check yours up.
We can pull a few more of these comments off if you want. I don't know if we should.
Oh, sure. Let's
address
do it.
them.
Sure. Lemon Ortega, so guy who we think is trolling about the chicken and rice. So maybe let's just quickly say, you do not need to do this to be shredded. You do not need to do this. You can do this, but you do not need to do this.
Well, yeah, I'll flip that around. If you go back to his initial one,
Yeah.
You can also do this and still be in a surplus. If I give you somebody who is at maintenance and they're eating 1,200 calories a day and it's proven with weigh-ins, et cetera, they're at maintenance and they're not losing weight as a metabolic adaptation and previous inputs, they could eat nothing but rice, chicken, and an apple and hit above 1,200 calories, depending on serving sizes and stuff, and still run 2 times and not get shredded. I mean, I don't even know, like, there's so many things off about this because, like, what is even shredded, right? So, like, someone could potentially lose weight, but you don't even know the amount of time. So just when you guys say something like this, where it's like a very generalized statement, just remember, like, people will take this and run with it. And what this channel is really about is giving you guys the core fundamentals of the facts in the background outside of our previous, history with this stuff. Just because a person A, B, or C has gotten shredded in the past doing a sport or something by eating these foods, it was still only because you were in a calorie deficit. It wasn't because of the apple being magical or the chicken being magical. It was a decent protein intake that allowed you to at least maintain some or hopefully most or all of your muscle mass. You were in a net deficit for X period of time and you got lean enough. And at that point in time, the parameters were enough to get you there, because that may not even be the case right now, depending. And once again, you're not without like a calorie count or anything like that. It's a very generalized statement. Just be careful. That's all, because people take it very seriously. Stella said mine is an isolate and no sugar. You are definitely the perfect person to come on that one, where he said, I think he said, the only thing that sucks about protein is that it's fattening because it has sugar. I'll let you take that one if you want.
Yeah. So immediately here, I thought he was referring to like the protein, but I think he's referring to protein as a powder. So protein itself, right, is a macronutrient. So obviously it cannot contain sugar, but a protein powder supplement could have multiple fillers or multiple things in it. And that could be a good thing. It could be a bad thing. Depends what you're after here. So lots of protein powders. I think it's pretty average for them to have like some sugar alcohol. Usually they run some artificial sweeteners in there, and there might be like a total net 1 carb or something like that.
Yeah, it's like very negligent.
And it might be, and it might or it might not be sugar. So I haven't seen too many, honestly, that have like heaps of sugar, but there are some that have tons of carbs, right? Because the purpose of those is to get in more calories. So they just slam basically some maltodextrin in there to get your carbs in. So it's not really a bad thing to get in calories from sugar per se. And it doesn't always happen, I think, right alongside protein. It would depend on the powder that you're using. So he answered that with whey, right? So he was saying, so we were wondering if you were tracking their Silas. You said, ain't tracking nothing. Working out, eating clean, drinking protein shakes after workout. If that works, hell yeah.
Can you go back to that one portion of the comment?
Yeah, which...
Just because I didn't know if you were going to touch on the fact that he said it was fattening because it has sugar.
Yeah, there's another good one. You could go on that.
So once again, remember, guys, and I really encourage whoever has not yet watched our first 6 episodes, because we go over the basic fundamentals of how putting on fat can happen, or body fat, how taking it off works, the physiology behind this, the energy balance equation that's necessary to understand this. There's nothing fattening about protein intake. The only way a human can actually put on fat is if they're in a net surplus, right? An energy surplus. You could put on fat by eating nothing but apples. And that's not because the apples have sugar in them. It's because you're in a calorie surplus. You could also put on fat by eating nothing but protein or nothing but fat intake, right? Any of those 3 macronutrients or a combination there within. So just remember, there's nothing fattening about protein powders. There's nothing fattening about avocado. You could say it has fat in it as a macronutrient, but avocados aren't going to make you overweight or put on body fat. It's the energy balance that's going to do that. So just remember that and keep that in mind, because you just got to be careful with terminology here, because it could really be skewed quite badly and make someone really either reinforce already bad existing information, kind of like the crypto space, right? So we're coming in here to really do what Hex does, is just give straight up transparency all the time, regardless of the feelings that people have about it, because it's needed in our industry, and the Hexicans are definitely people that deserve to have that. So, and I'm not knocking him by any means, just being careful with terminology is important.
Yep, I hear you. Yeah, intaking sugar is not always fattening. It can be fattening. There's always context here, guys. Like whenever someone says like blank, if it's an absolute statement, it can almost be proven wrong if we give it a different context when it comes to the health and fitness world.
Dude, I'm already gonna say this right now. We need to do an episode on sugar.
Yeah, probably, eh?
Yeah. No, absolutely, it has to happen. I'll let you take the next couple.
Yeah, that's good. There's lots of good data on it, where it's like isocaloric diets, so the same total calories in, and then they manipulate the amount of sugar that one group gets compared to another, manipulate the amount of carbs, and a whole bunch of groups, and it's like, guys, there's no difference. Like it's treated like it's treated like another macronutrient. It's like assuming like you're hitting a few other points. Like all agree if your diet is like 90% sugar, it's gonna be tough to have some good outcomes on that diet. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
it
this
can
is yeah,
be,
this is stuff with like a lot of peer-reviewed meta-analysis
mhm,
studies that have been consistently showing that
yeah,
sugar is not making people gain weight. We're not going to go into it here. It'll be definitely be its own episode because people are going to want to see the facts on it, and there
mhm,
are a lot of facts on it.
yeah,
So you're going to have to be able to own up to that, look at
mhm,
it, understand it for what it's saying, just like what we do with the crypto space with transparency,
mhm,
and update the worldview on it because that's been that way for a while. Until the science changes on that, that's going to be a tough conversation. I feel like with some people, it
yeah,
always is, man. You already know.
yeah. It's on a gram for gram basis, it like every other normal like macro containing food. Um,
Yeah,
the one big problem with it is it's so easy to consume a ridiculous amount of total energy through that medium. It's like it's pretty tough to do that with a lot of things.
yeah,
But when you combine a few like the traits that that sugar itself has, it's like, oh shit, it happens to be one that people overeat compared to most, but like it's the overeating that's leading to the problem, not necessarily the uh, the medium there.
got some more good comments
Yeah,
in
what
here.
was this next one I
Start
was looking
roll
at to
through.
bring up? This was Stylus talking about his protein. It's an isolate. There's no sugar in it.
Cool.
Good to know. How about this one? Is this one you're looking at? Is cheese bad for you?
Yeah,
Um, I will not. I don't think you'll find me classifying anything as good or bad. Cheese, you can incorporate cheese into a diet and you can have great outcomes. So if you like cheese, I suggest figuring out a way to work it in to your daily goals. Uh, I'm I will not say it's bad for you. Typically, so where the problems can lie with cheese is that it is a very, very high fat food. Fats are usually something that people are really, really good at getting. It's like if
yeah.
you weren't really tracking and you look at your like your macro countdown. So mine, I just really threw in a quick day here. I just put eggs in the morning, a turkey sandwich at lunch with fries, a steak, potatoes, a salad, and my fat is 140%, like through the roof. That's I think pretty normal for people who aren't really thinking about macros and like the total breakdown of the calorie content that they're intaking. And even on this diet, which I think is pretty high protein for the average person, it only hit 56% of the target protein goal. It's probably getting close to the RDA here, or like what's like recommended as like minimal, but probably not the beneficial range. It's probably still low there. Um, so yeah, cheese not bad for you. But if you eat too much of it, I guess it could be, right? Like anything could be. The death is in the dose here.
I
So
love that you just said that. That was exactly what I was going to say. I'm a
yeah.
firm believer that death really comes, or poison really comes in the dosage of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just like with something like aspartame in diet sodas or
Mm-hmm.
sodas in general, or even something like fiber intake that people would never classify as a negative thing. But you have a lot of the clients in the group that I run that found this protein pasta that came out recently, dude. You ready for this shit? It's a
Okay.
protein pasta that's got like 3 extra grams of protein per serving max, which is like whoop-de-doo. Pasta already has 7 grams per serving already, and it
Mm-hmm.
bumps it to 10. Guess how much fiber is in this shit to get the net carb value low? You already know where I'm going with this. Guess how
Yeah,
much
it's gonna be a
fiber is in
shit
one
ton.
serving of this? Guess.
Like 30.
You're close, 26. And guess how much of
Jeez.
that is soluble versus insoluble?
Uh, I don't know. 50, 50, 80, 20.
100 is insoluble, bro. 100.
What?
Yep.
Come on.
One of my clients literally was like, "Hey, I haven't gone number 2 in like 4 or 5 days.
What the fuck is
Is
it?
this a problem?" I'm like, "Have you made any changes recently? What's been going on? Everything's been like almost picture perfect." They're like, "Well, I got the new pasta everybody in the group's been talking about." I'm like, "Holy shit, man." I'm like, "Can you shoot me like the nutrition label on this real quick? Because I don't stay up to date on all like the crazy, because a lot of the times it's marketing. This is like a whole thing we talk about is net carbs. People who are diabetic specifically typically count something like carbs and net carbs specifically, but it's a big marketing ploy that is in a way truthful, but in a way really screws people. It has to do with fiber. So yeah, fiber can also be deadly if you eat too much, just like anything can be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Too much protein can be taxing. So yeah,
Yeah.
is cheese bad for you? No, what you really need to look into is honestly our first couple of episodes that we've done. Look into, because I see you had a couple of good questions in there about macros and micros. Look into our human hex trafficker. Look, that's a funny name. Not really a funny name. It's actually, I won't get into it, but it made me chuckle quickly. Look into our first couple episodes. We talk about energy balance. We talk about tracking calories in terms of like the understanding of the energy balance equation, how to do this at a fundamental level, whether it's all cheese. Like, dude, you could literally lose weight eating nothing but cheese. I wouldn't recommend it. You're going to feel like shit. And if you're lactose intolerant, good luck. And your digestive tract is going to hate you. I'm sure exercise wouldn't promote that either. But for the sake of understanding this, it's important to know that, yeah, you could lose weight on nothing but a diet of cheese and Skittles if you really wanted to, as long as the energy balance is in check. Is that the most effective way to maintain muscle and drop body fat? Probably not. Probably not. But I really recommend going back to the first couple of episodes and look at our titles, and you'll see some of the more ones that kind of go over the basic fundamentals and principles. I think you'll get some of the answers you're looking for.
Okay, yeah, I'm seeing a couple more comments here. Let's yeah, this does make me want to do an episode about sugar, I guess. Hey,
dude, I was waiting for, I knew it was gonna make you want to do one.
Yeah. Okay, so this lemon or lemon this falls under I think it's the insulin obesity or obesity insulin hypothesis, and I think it's been fairly well, I don't want to say debunked, but fairly well, like it hasn't been able to prove its claims, I guess would be a decent way to say it. If you've got like maybe a few articles or studies that you reference, I'd like to take a look at them for sure. But yeah, this does really make me want to bring up some of the data on sugar, because there have been lots of controlled RCTs or randomized control trials on this exact subject. And I don't disagree that there is like a pretty like convincing theory on like the insulin model, but time and time again, it just hasn't panned out, right? So I think at this point, we've probably seen enough data where it's time to start not trying to manipulate the data to fit our hypothesis, and probably time to change the hypothesis on that one. I just have not seen it play out as of now. So Limon, yeah, if you do have some, I'd love to include them in a sugar episode that I guess we're going to commit to right here, right now, Ryan. Do an episode on
Might as
sugar.
well just do it now, man. It's all this stuff's going to come up
Yeah,
eventually. It just takes
yeah.
the right questions to bring it up.
So for sure, I'd love to do that, and we'll go through like where some actual groups were eating way more sugar than another group, and then some on lower sugar, some on higher sugar, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, so following up here, so sugar spikes your insulin. I'm not denying that it can spike your insulin, but there are multiple things that can spike your insulin, not necessarily just sugar. So it's not like a spike in insulin equals a net negative as an outcome. Yeah, it can be lots of things spiking blood sugar. Insulin, as a thing, is generally anabolic, which means like your cells will uptake things. So it depends kind of on the environment at that moment, like when insulin spikes, but it's more so like the law of averages, right? It doesn't like acute periods aren't really what make up the big picture. It's usually the long period of time. So a spike in insulin definitely does lead to an outcome, but it doesn't necessarily, like having high insulin doesn't stop you from losing fat. There can definitely be times when it inhibits it, for sure. But it's over a long period of time, the outcomes are very similar, like negligibly so. Assuming there's no like outlying issues, right? Like some sort of glucose disposal issue, so any sort of kidney issue or any sort of like diabetic problem. So we followed that up with refined sugar is pretty bad, all I'm saying, unless you are on TRT. So I'll also challenge here, saying refined sugar is very similar to normal sugar, whether it's natural or not. It's your body really treats it as like a carbohydrate on a gram to gram basis. So glucose itself is like usually the most dense, because that's what we're going down to when it comes to like substrate utilization for fuel. but so it's maybe it can be more dense, so easier to consume. And I don't even know if I should try to comment on if it's, I have no idea if TRT affects your glucose utilization when it comes to like actual metabolism. Here's one. Here's a lighter one for us, Ryan. What is a micronutrient? Human hex trafficker. A micronutrient is a nutrient that does not contain energy, so it doesn't have any calories in it. Our macronutrients being carbohydrates, fats, protein, and even alcohol. And then micronutrients being things like your vitamins, your minerals,
Yep.
things
Keep
like
it simple
that.
there, man.
Very nice. Micronutrient.
Yep.
Do we have anything else going on here?
Good one from Stylus.
Nice one. 0.7 grams per pound. That's the goal building muscle. I think that's a really, really good place to start.
Yeah. I mean, to keep this simple, because this is something people, once again, spend way too much time on, 0.7 is a really good start point, regardless of what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just maintaining muscle is important to do as a human being. People forget that, like, only like in that small period of time when someone's like working out and they're trying to like do all this stuff, that only then it's important to have protein intake. It's like, guys, no, like this is very important to have just as a normal human being. Like we need muscle to just operate and do things. So whether you're in a weight loss phase or a weight gain phase or even maintenance, it's still incredibly important to prevent deterioration of muscle mass to have protein, because you forget just walking around, going up the stairs, it's breaking down muscle tissue in various groups, various muscle groups, right? So it's super important to honestly just become more familiarized with it. It is something that's really particularly annoying in culture to eat a lot of. Like everything you see in America has carbs and fat in it from a macronutrient standpoint. But once you get good at this and a bit more clever, you find really nice and easy ways to get your protein up much higher. Because yeah, a lot of guys freak out a little bit when they're like, oh, we got to eat 160 grams of protein a day. Like that's ridiculous. It's like, yes, it could seem that way on first glance, but after a month, you're not going to think anything of it. You're going to get really good at it. So, yeah, I think just in general, like exercise said, great start point, no matter what the goal is, not just for building muscle.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. As it actually happens, it's a little bit opposite of what a lot of people think, is when you're losing weight, your protein per pound actually becomes more important.
Yeah.
When you're in a gaining phase, so in a surplus of any type, it's getting your minimum, like 0.7, I call it 0.7 grams per pound or 1.6 grams per kilo, is awesome. As you go into some sort of deficit, protein becomes more
Yeah.
important because it can mitigate the amount of weight loss. So very, very similar. We've got lots of control trials on this. They've looked at groups with the recommended protein and then groups with elevated protein as they lose weight. And the elevated protein groups hold on to more fat-free mass or more muscle. So if you go
Yep.
back down to, if you're losing weight, protein becomes more and more important as a way to mitigate the weight that you're losing being fat-free mass. As you lose weight, you're always going to lose from both your fat and your fat-free mass compartments. So muscle and fat, you'll be losing a mixture of both. But there are tools you can implement, or I guess routines or methods you can implement to try to mitigate that. One of the big ones, of course, being lifting weights, exercising. That will mitigate how much muscle mass you're losing when you're losing weight, and having higher than normal protein is a big one there.
Yeah.
Just something that people, for some reason, like I thought the opposite too. I was like, oh shit, you're building muscle, like let's fucking go up on the protein. But it's really more important as you're going down in weight. Limon, I'm not going to answer that other question. I do not have a plug. Talk about how salads are calorie traps that noobs fall into. They load them up with ranch. Yeah, this we actually just brought up in that eating out
Yeah.
video.
Mm-hmm.
There it's
Our last episode.
when Ryan was making the analogy that a lot of people don't know exactly how much they're paying for a specific meal in terms of the kcal cost to your energy budget, right? So lots of times people will get a salad and be like, oh, this will be a couple hundred calories, and it'll turn up to be tons, like 7, 8, 900. So yeah, absolutely, there are times where certain dishes that you might deem to be lower calorie are definitely not that way. One funny one here from Hex Trafficker after the nice easy one that you pitched me there earlier. I have a question in regards to sugar. So my pour of choice is Bacardi Supreme, and my mix of choice is Gatorade. Is this for when you're on the bench?
Yeah,
I'm
what
just,
is this in terms of a calorie count a bad mix or
I'm just playing, but I was just laughing here at the Gatorade. I don't see many people mixing with Gatorade. Um, I I like Bacardi. I like Gatorade. I would definitely try your mix. In terms of, is this a good mix, like calorie wise? I don't know. It's probably on the higher end if this is a full real sugar Gatorade,
Yeah.
but definitely not on the worst end of the spectrum.
Easy way to counteract that if you want, man. I know you're once again, this is if you're trying to look for clever ways to reduce calorie intake and save it maybe for other things. Like when I have whiskey, I typically do it with Diet Pepsi because
Hmm.
the taste is very similar. I'd rather use Diet Pepsi than the full-fledged Pepsi and use the 40 carbs on that, and the net calories with it. So could
Hmm.
be a time to reduce, or just it's just this is an opportunity to reduce if you want. But yeah,
Okay, so they followed up a little bit here. I meant sugar, how your body breaks down Bacardi. I was wondering. Um, yeah, it doesn't. Again, it's going to be about total content going into you here. It's not like there's a specific mix that is bad, like even the way that you digest it or like metabolize it. So it's not like
yeah,
if you found one drink that goes through the metabolic like breakdown better, I would say just drink whatever you'd like. Just kind of be aware of what the total content is. In terms of tracking alcohol, most people break it up into like, I think they go like 50% fat, 50% carbs, and then you just take that away from your allotted macros. So there's definitely ways that you can track it if you're interested in doing that, but I wouldn't say I wouldn't even know to say if it's a good breakdown in terms of like how your body breaks it down. Like you'll go absorb the sugar, you'll use it, you break down the alcohol into a few things, you'll use it, and then you'll clear it.
yeah,
So
that could
it's
be its own episode too. The whole like, you know, is there actually a benefit for how your body breaks down the net calories from alcohol, empty calories, whatever the term is people like to use, and that
mm-hmm.
could be its own episode. I don't think it's a good thing to get into tonight,
Uh-huh.
because that's wildly misunderstood as well. Probably another good episode. There you go. It was alcohol. How the hell does that work? How does our body break it down and make use of it? And how do we, use that into the energy balance equation, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I think that'd be good. Another good episode too, outside of just sugar in general. But
Mm-hmm.
real quick, let me just talk about Lose It real quick, guys. I don't recommend this one as much as MyFitnessPal. This will be quick, then we can answer a couple more questions. Probably call it here soon at the hour mark. But
Sure.
Lose It is one that I've seen in my Facebook group that I run with my friend, Lose Weighted Pizza. And this is over a lot of people, guys. There's like 52 or 54K of people in this group right now. And the majority of them switched from MyFitnessPal to Lose It. Now, this is a very different demographic. This is females age 40 to 60 primarily. And this app, although it's not my preference, is very heavy on the user interface. And what I mean by that is MyFitnessPal is very direct, very black and white, and that's what I prefer. And I do recommend for other people because I personally think the whole point of this is not having to do this forever. When you learn the full process, you get to, do some of the things that we've talked about in prior episodes, like reverse dieting, losing the weight, and then getting your calorie count up to a point where it supports your lifestyle. So you don't have to be buried in an app like this 24/7, right? We can just do this in our head, kind of like what we do when we go grocery shopping, right? It's just there. The responsibility is still there. We've just learned to exist with it in a manner that's still effective. No different here. But the point is with Lose It, also free, also has all the basically the same features as MyFitnessPal, but the user interface is really busy and it's just got like a lot of, in my opinion, pointless pages to it. And it's got like these like flash pop-ups that come up when you enter in how much weight you've lost and stuff, which to each their own, right? It's a very personal preference here on this. My recommendation would be start with MyFitnessPal first. I recommend having a more black and white relationship with tracking, kind of like finances. You're not in love with it. You don't hate it. It's just a necessary thing. We have a kind of a balanced relationship with it. I would recommend not getting too involved with tracking and falling in love with it because it's not something you're supposed to really fall in love with that way. You can enjoy tracking data and stuff, but like in terms of time spent in the app and how easy it is to access information, I think MyFitnessPal is definitely on a league above Lose It. But, the facts are there and people have really shifted to Lose It. So, it's not like anything's going to explode if you use Lose It, but this is another good option that's really risen quite fast. Recently that I have seen, The last thing I want to say about Lose It is from my client base that I work with, I've seen a lot of messed up entries on Lose It. A lot of their database entries are just not great. I can say that with certainty because my clients track every day, all the time. Shoot me stuff. I communicate with them every day, 24/7, and on phone calls. And I see a stark difference between clients who track with us and clients who track with MyFitnessPal. So if you're tuning in late, scroll back earlier in the stream and look at where I talked about MyFitnessPal. But both of these are free. Both of these are great. I'm not dissing this on purpose or anything like that. I'm just giving you my unsolicited opinion on both of them. But these are probably the top two options, in my opinion, out there right now. But yeah. That's about it for me, honestly.
Yeah,
For
if you
those
like
two.
it, if you like it, you like it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And if it works well for you and you're seeing great results, don't overcomplicate that.
Mhm.
Just because I use MyFitnessPal and I crush it, that doesn't mean that you have to use it.
Yeah,
You can crush
check
it.
them all out, and
Yeah.
if you check out the first one and it sticks, friggin' stick with it.
Keep in mind, I have clients that write shit down on a piece of paper.
Yeah, yeah,
You don't
that's
have to
crazy.
use these. This is just making the process easier. I don't
Yeah.
want to have to write shit down on a piece of paper. I
Mhm.
want to scan it and not have to worry about it. So if you're old school, great, do old school. Write out, draw, chart your weigh-ins, like do it all up. I don't care. Teach their
Mhm.
own. You can write down a rock for all I care. This is just us going over some tools and also just kind of how these things populate and what works well. But the main goal is, and really to kind of capture the title of the video, is the whole goal of this is to not have to do this forever. I really encourage you guys to go to our first episodes and understand that this is really a tiered episode list to get you guys prepared as you go into more complex topics. Because if the misunderstanding of the balance or the foundational stuff isn't there, a lot of this stuff isn't going to click. So in terms of this, if you know about reverse dieting, if you know about energy balance, if you know about how to go into a deficit, etc., you know that at the end of the day, when you know these skill sets, the tracking isn't forever. Once you lose the weight and you look the way you want to look, maintaining it is easy. Maintaining it is the easiest part, guys. So once you learn how to do that and operate at a calorie count that works well enough that you don't have to track everything perfectly to be close to it, that's it. You're done. People are like, well, what do I do now, Ryan? I'm like, what do you mean? You lost all the weight. You're eating 2,600 calories a day. You
You
can
made
go out
it.
and enjoy your life. Yeah, you made it. That's
You
it. You're
made it.
done. You
Yeah,
don't have
buddy.
to lose weight anymore. This is never going to happen again. The mindset is different. It's changed. The fundamental understanding of the process is there. So
Mhm.
that's what we're looking to do with this stream, guys, through Discourse Syndicate, is bring that clarity and the transparency to an industry, the weight loss industry, which is heavily lacking, and bring it into the crypto space, especially with Hacks Kids, because you guys are open with your mindset, growth mindset, and you obviously are in an asset that's doing the same thing in a space that also needs more clarity and transparency that
Mhm.
Richard Hart does. And as you guys know, Richard Hart pisses a lot of people off with the transparency and honesty, and we're likely to do the same. So just keep that in mind, but it's because we love you guys, we care about you guys, and we're not going to feed you any BS. And if we don't know something, we'll tell you and we'll figure it out what the answer needs to be based on what the science shows currently.
Yeah, buddy.
But yeah, good stream for sure.
Yes,
Got a few
sir.
more cool comments here. We could close out a couple more of these and close it out.
Sure. Which one are you looking at here? Maybe right here.
I think Stylus had a couple good ones.
Stylus. Don't know how I'm gonna get that much protein in one day. What do you guys' meals look like on a typical day? Maybe let's just do a quick calc for you, or like how many grams of protein did you come up with for you, or that you're targeting Stylus first, and then maybe I'll go for what I do on a day. My meals, I usually eat later in the day. I usually skip breakfast. Oftentimes I skip lunch, and then I get to more or less eat whatever I want, I guess. But I've just found it beneficial to get most of my calories in later in the day. That's what works with me. I kind of work on the computer in the morning. And then, yeah, I probably am mindful of the fact that I do need to shoot for higher protein in general, like as a general rule, because oftentimes like my calories can get filled up with non-protein stuff, but I'm probably not hitting 1.6 every day. Um, it's almost always like, even if you look at that, I'll add this to a stream. Like I'll add this, like the eggs, the bacon, the turkey sandwich, a steak. Here only says it hit 56% of my protein target. And I think I can't really remember how I set up the calories and the macros on this when I was tracking, but I'm pretty sure I set protein up really, really high to try to encourage me to get more. So even when I
Yeah.
see like, hey, I'm at 50%, 56% of my protein, I'm still at 110 grams. I weigh in terms of kilos right now, I don't even have a guess for you in terms of kilos or pounds, really. Haven't had a scale for a while. But this is probably on like the lower end of the threshold that I'm looking for. So even if I end up here for the day, I'm like, oh, it's still like it's still well over 1 gram per kilo. I'm okay with that. I probably don't want to see that every day, but it doesn't really bother me if it's for 1 or 2 or even 3 days, as long as it's getting closer to like the 1.6 per kilo or something like that. Yeah, that's about it for me, I think. Like when I'm thinking about high protein, he says 123 grams would be his new goal if it was 0.7. So 0.7 per pound. Is that right, Silas? Not per kilo. Right, that probably makes sense.
Yeah, I'd figure that to be the case. Man, y'all don't want to know what I eat on a daily basis.
Yeah, so 123, even with all this, like this breakdown didn't hit 123. I would say, yeah, it's okay if you're a little bit short of that, but it's a great goal to shoot for. So 1.6 is like one of the recommendations, or the 0.7 is very similar to 1.6.
Per kilo?
Yeah. The
Okay, yeah,
1.6
makes
per
sense.
kilo is the recommendation for resistance training
Yeah.
outcomes. You'll still see good outcomes on the lower RDAs. You'll just see a little bit better, and it's like it's better, but it's like quite fractionally better. So if you miss it on the low end, like every once in a while, it's really I mean I don't sweat it at all.
Yeah.
But
I mean, dude, I would say, depending on your preferences, because I don't know your food preferences, right? If I have a vegan, I can't have them eat meat, so
yeah.
that kicks it out. So for a vegan where they're very limited, they're typically getting lentils. And I hate to say it, but yeah, like protein supplements, like that's kind of the trade-off that you do
Mm-hmm.
with something like that to kind of go for overall health purposes or whatever the preference is that they want to be vegan for.
Yeah.
So in your case, I don't know exactly what you're doing, but let's just say you're kind of like in the realm of like normalcy of like, what most people are doing. I mean, breakfast is typically the one I see most people lacking on. So if you do even something like a Greek yogurt and maybe some sort of breakfast sandwich, or even like, I don't know, just some sort of, it could even be a small protein shake in the morning. That's all it takes. Like you have like 20, 30 grams from that, plus a Greek yogurt and maybe some form of carbohydrate with that. You're already at like 30, 40 grams for the day. And just with like a typical normal, maybe a meat-based dinner and something small on lunch, you're already like pretty close, right? And then from
Mm-hmm.
there, you're kind of making small incremental improvements or just kicking up the serving sizes of these
Yeah.
things. Honestly, it may seem like a lot of food, but most people are not under eating, but under eating protein so badly because they're getting the calories in from sources that are just so high in calorie, but the volume isn't there. So people get really
Yeah.
off put by the volume of food that can come when you do track protein and macros, especially more effectively. The volume
Mm-hmm.
is weird because they're used to low volume, but not realizing it's so high in calorie. And by volume, I mean how much food's actually in front of you that you see. So you could have a plate. It's not a lot of food, but a ton of calories. Then you're tracking macros more effectively. You're like, holy shit, this is a lot of food. There's no way in hell this is only 500 calories.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way it can go depending on what you're doing, the food choices and your goals, of course, right? So I would just say get your feet wet, man. Get into it. Worst case scenario is you're under a little bit. That's not the end of the world, dude. Honestly, in a few weeks, you're going to be a pro at tracking protein. And you're going to be like, why was I ever worried about this? So yeah, I would definitely just get your feet wet with it first. This is an everyday thing for the rest of your life in some capacity, which is why, once again, even more important to not like get so involved with tracking that you're just, building a weird relationship with it and understand that this is, something that can coexist forever, like our finances, but we just need to be careful about how we build that relationship. And I think all of our previous episodes are really helping form through knowledge and education and mentorship, how to form that relationship over a long period of time, hopefully forever, right? We want to be healthy forever. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, good questions tonight. Some
Yeah,
interesting ones.
definitely. Yeah, start building muscle. Hell yeah, brother.
Cool. I think that's it for now, man.
Cool, man.
Pretty simple
Yeah,
one tonight.
pretty nice one.
Until we do the one on sugar.
Oh, I don't know if I answered the question. What was the question that went along with this? Do I have to do this forever? I think you kind of addressed it in your last little rip, maybe.
Yeah, but
Do you have to?
he didn't ask that. I was
Yeah.
just talking about the title.
Do you have to do this forever? Do we have to use apps to track our food forever? Obviously, no. But if it's like, I think it's a lifelong tool that you can implement really whenever. So like you kind of made the analogy like to your finances, like it is an extremely useful and a direct corollary to what will happen with
Yeah.
your like emerging health. So why not use it, you know? So if you can
Yeah.
figure out a way to use it lifelong, honestly, I think you're going to benefit. Obviously, you don't want to be like obsessing over tracking food and weighing and et cetera, but like for every single day or every single food or whatever, but
It's
there
like the
like
bank account,
it's a
you
useful, yeah,
know?
it's a useful tool. So
Like, you don't have to use a bank account to
yeah,
be financially wealthy, but
or will I
probably helps to be aware
continue
of
to
it.
like kind of like budget and check in on my spending? Like, yeah, I'm gonna continue to employ like those kinds of tools and resources for the rest of my life. So that's kind of the way I consider this. And I think like these tools, if you're really, really strict with them for a couple of stints, like you can like get the experience and the skills to basically do most of that without the app, like without what most people deem to be like the tedious portion of it. It's just
Yeah.
yeah, it takes a few reps, and then you can probably guess if you have a scale, you can probably guess day in and day out how you're doing. If, so yeah, for me, do you have to do this forever? Obviously not. I do think it's a useful tool to have available forever.
Well worded, man. Cool, guys. Well,
All
as
right,
always, thank you again for having us on.
that's it.
This
Let's
is
hit it
episode
there.
7, right?
Episode 7,
Yes. Check out the
Monday
first 6 if you
mindset.
guys haven't.
Yes, please. And if you are here to, yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Bring some questions, and yeah, who was that earlier about the sugar? Limon. Seriously, if you do have some resources about the insulin obesity hypothesis, I'd love to tackle them. You can find me, I'm sure, multiple places. Exercise, Twitter, Telegram. And yeah, that is going to be on the books now. So we will do a sugar episode coming soon.
Get
Hey?
ready for the punches,
Oh
man.
man, I love it. So
A lot of people are going to be pissed. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. But yeah, the truth's going
okay.
to come out, guys and gals. But yeah, love you guys. Thank you so much for having us on.
Thanks for being here. Hope you tune in next time, and bye for now.